Hey guys, this is Sam, and I am about to show you another edition of how to use the CMS bridge. And the reason the whole reason this tutorial is coming about is because we kept having problems updating this particular page, which is the gallery right here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show a little bit about why we had some difficulties. But ultimately, this is going to wind up turning into a lesson on HTML, the basics, as well as the use of the CK editor, which is built into the CMS bridge, and also using source code. So it should be pretty informative, so stay with me on this, and I will try and keep it as brief as I can, but I think we've got the problem solved. And just to prove that, I am going to find the finished product, because I've already done this, the way that it should look. But let's see if I can find that. You know, you're not supposed to have long pauses on a tutorial, so I do apologize. Okay, I just found it. So moving it into view, this is what it looks like, or hopefully what it's going to look like by the time we're done. So let's keep this off to the side. And so we're going to have a heading at the top here. We're going to have a little bit of content to make it interesting with a link. And then we're going to have the, the hunting season photos by year from the newest down to the oldest. So let's get started. If I can move this, that is. Okay, so got a little confused there. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to get rid of this section over here. To do that, we're going to need to log in. So we're going to go all the way down to the bottom and click on Site Editor. And I've already got the password saved. And so I'm going to sign in. And I'm going to go up to Show Edit Links. Click on Edit section here, and let's move the editor into view. And all I'm going to do is simply grab it. I'm going to hit delete. I can check my source code. My source code is also blank. There's nothing there. I'm going to go ahead and click update. And I know that it got to the server. I think it did, because I can see that this update button is grayed out. And now I'm ready to close. So we can see it's gone, but let's go ahead and hit the refresh button to make sure. Okay, and it worked. Now, the next series of changes are going to have to be made slowly and painstakingly, and in the process, like I said, I'm going to get to show you guys some things about HTML, especially as it relates to doing the edits here. First thing, I would like to add a header to this, but I want it to look to this page. I want the header to look exactly like this. And so to do that, I am going to use my CMS bridge function of my editor. But here's the deal. I've got a section at the top, main region center intro, main region center content, and main region center content inset. That's like a little inset on the right. I don't need that. So that on the right is going to disappear. But I do want to have the intro. What I'm going to do, I'm going to open the main section. And because this is a JavaScript and it reloads things dynamically, there is some conflict that's going on, or was going on, between this page or this editing page and the main page, because it's trying to update, but it's also got its own logic, and so it was causing a mess. So I'm going to uncheck this update while I type, and then I'm going to go to source code. Actually, I'm going to do something even better. I'm going to scroll down to where I get to here, and if you'll notice a few things, let's take a look at the environment, and we're going to open this up a little bit. I have this word selected. Up here I see a B, which means it's inside of a B tag. But if I look down here, I can see also that it says there's a B there. Now HTML is tags inside of tags inside of tags. So this B tag happens to be inside of a span, and by clicking that I don't get any more. But watch over here to the right, if I click the P, which stands for paragraph, I get a little bit more. Now without going to source code, I can actually copy that. So I'm going to do Command C or Control C. I just did that, and now I'm going to go ahead and close this. Again, what I said was we need to be very careful and do this in a painstaking step-by-step manner, and we'll learn something as we go. So now I'm going to click on this section here, and I am going to Command or Control V, and let's see if that's looking like I'd like it to look, and it does. But it doesn't say what I want it to say. I'm going to type in dove and duck season, or duck hunting photo gallery. Okay, that looks good, but there's also some stuff here which I don't understand. Now if I look down here, that's the B, that's the span, and that's the P, or the paragraph tag. And so if I go to source, it's kind of hard to do this, and I'm going to add some enter characters, but that paragraph, the P tag right here, if I scroll to the right, it ends over here. But I don't know how the rest of this got in there. We'll just chalk it up to ghosts or aliens or something like that. But let's get rid of that. And let's go back out of our source code, and I don't see that. And it looks pretty clean. I like that. So let's see if we can get that to stick. Actually, let's go ahead and start putting in the next paragraph. So I'm going to put my cursor at the end, hit enter, and by default, when I hit enter, what will happen is I will start with a brand new paragraph. If we click on source, well, it's not there yet, but if I start typing, okay, and I'm going to just leave that there for now. I'm going to fill in the rest of it later on. And so you can see that here's a paragraph that I have added. Now, by the way, something you need to understand is all these indents, that's not the way I would do it. I would do something like this. But if I leave my source code and I come back, I can forget about my way. This box here called CK Editor is pretty much going to do what it wants to. It will typically respect my syntax, but it might change the layout. And some people, like myself, find that very annoying. But instead of having to write out source code only, I've got this cool editor, so that's the way I want this to be for now. And so we'll put up with the changes in the source code layout. I can deal with that. Just understand that it is there, and it is trying to do that from time to time, constantly. So I'm going to click Update, and it grayed out. I think it worked. I'm going to close it. I'm going to hide edit links because I'd like to see that differently, and then I'm going to refresh this. And so, yeah, it looks pretty good except for the spacing. So let's do something about that. And this is an HTML lesson, okay? Has nothing to do with the editor, but it's valuable to watch it. So let's go back to our source, or let's just click here. This is a B inside of a span inside of a paragraph. That really shouldn't be a paragraph. It should be a header. And since it's the top level header of the page, it should be a header level 1. So at the same time, I want the styling to be the same as all of the rest of the headings down here. So let's see if we can fix that. So first off, instead of a P, I want this to be an H1. And way over here, wherever you start, you have to end it the same way. And let's go ahead and go to source, or away from source. It looks the same here, and it looks the same here, but you'll notice that there's a little bit more margin at the top because H1s have more margin than a paragraph. Now, again, this is an HTML lesson, and this is a span. That span is really not needed, so let's take all of the junk inside of the span and get rid of it. And when I do that, notice that my header changes to a way that I don't want it to be. So I'm going to have to stick with that method, and so let's go back to source, but let's instead add it to the H1. So I'm going to paste it in. So I've applied all of those class attributes to the H1 instead of the span, and I've basically emptied the span out. So I wonder if I can just, well, I don't even wonder, I know I can get rid of the span because the span doesn't take up any space, it's not needed. So if I look at source, it looks the way it's supposed to look, and it looks the way it's supposed to look over here. Now we'll do one more thing. I wonder if I can get rid of that bold because headings are usually bold. So this is the B, that's where it starts, and that's where it ends. And by the way, that little extra space is the space that we got when we clicked on the P or the paragraph in the past. So now it looks to me the same as it did before, and furthermore, it's much more SEO friendly because an H1 tells me, hey, this is what this page is about, more so than does a paragraph. So this looks good. Let's update it, close it, and just to be picky, let's hide the edit links. Let's refresh it. And so that's looking much better. There's a little bit more acceptable margin here, and so we'll say, let's go with it, and we'll be happy with it. Okay, now it's time to actually edit the slideshow. So the first thing I want to do is get rid of this one from the past. And so once again, when we're dealing with JavaScript, embedded JavaScripts, as we are with a third-party service, which is called Cincopa, and here is their website, cincopa.com, we're pushing the limit of what the CMS bridge can do in terms of editing because there can be conflicts in the JavaScript. So let's go ahead and take a look at the previous seasons. We got those season photos, and we're inside editor right now. So we're going to proceed carefully. We're going to show our edit links and click edit section. All right, now I'm going to use this as an opportunity to explain a little bit of HTML. So I've got this mess of things here, 2014 and 15, but I've got this slideshow here. Notice how I click that when it's slightly grayed out. Also notice that I get an image, but there's this long list or chain of things. Think of it as a mummy buried inside of another container, inside of another container, inside of another container, like you've seen in the movies. And that's kind of what HTML is here. So if I take this image, I can delete that. But I don't want to just get the image, I want to get this entire container. So I go to UL, div, 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 div. And so it looks like, you can't see it, you can see the borders, but I really have gotten that whole section because I'm clicked here. If you look down here, nothing else is selected. If I go up to the body and click on that, well, I thought it would highlight other places as well. It has. So there's the 2014, there's the text there. And yes, it's a lot of wading through here. Let's go ahead and maximize our editor, and that way I can scroll through a lot quicker. And you'll notice that basically everything is selected, and I don't want to select everything. I just want to get the very top slideshow. So I'm going to click on that image and go up all the way just short of the body, and I'm going to get that particular slideshow. I'm going to delete it. Okay, now I'm inside of some kind of element here that I can see, and I click on that div and I hit delete, and it looks like it's gone. But now it looks like this is inside of some kind of element. So you have a editor that's trying to figure out and do stuff for you. I don't like that. And so I'm going to go into my source. And I notice that it says added by Sam. Oh, let's do something. Let's go back out of source and let's make this smaller. And if you will notice, this little page section is resetting or reloading like crazy. Watch what happens. Once I do that, there's no more communication between this window and the window that I'm doing the edit in. And so that's what I want to have happen on something this complex. So let's go ahead and click inside the bold and inside the div. I want to get that outside of that box. So let's see if I can do this. I'm going to use a little bit of sense, and I'm going to say and I'm going to go back out of my source. Okay, so I know that that hello is something I can get rid of later, but I know that oh, you see that? It decided it was going to add that for me. So I am definitely like in the middle of an epic battle with my own editor. It happens. So let's go ahead and let's go ahead and go back to source. And let's assume that we can't really do anything with this. I think that'll be good. But I do want to prepare for putting the source code in, and I really need to do that. So I'm going to go down to 2014 to 2015. I'm going to go down to 2013 to 2014 because that looks pretty good. And I'm going to grab the bold, the span, and the paragraph. I'm going to copy. I'm going to just ignore this guy. Oh boy, it's repeating that, so I can't do that. What am I going to do? I wanted to keep this tutorial fast, so I'm going to Control Z. I'm going to undo that, and it looks like I'm going to have to escape this out of here. So let's see if I can pull this off. I don't need any of this div to be like this at all. And I think that might just solve everything. So let's go back to my source. I'm still inside of a box that I don't want. And so let's go ahead and do this the right way. Let's change this div to an H2. And let's go to the end of it and change that to an H2. Let's get rid of this bold because by default an H2 is in fact bold. But I've got to actually get rid of, or not get rid of, but I got to move all of this information inside the B or the bold tag up to here. And then I can get rid of the initial B. And so here you go. I've got an H2 with some style declarations or attributes inside of it. And I say 2014 to 2015 season photos. I don't need this space. And let's go back to our source. And bingo, we have it the way I want it to be. So it's only one tag and it looks good. So what we're going to do is it's going to be safer to work in source code. I am going to get rid of my break and my paragraph, and I'm going to do this. I've got 2 seasons I want to add. Okay, and so I'm going to say 2016 to 2017 season photos, 2015 to 2016 photos, and we are now ready to go. Now, more HTML lessons. There's something called an HTML comment. Okay, notice the way it ends, a space, that's important, 2 dashes, and a greater than sign. And it starts with a less than sign, an exclamation point, 2 dashes, and a space. That is absolutely essential. And so let's say begin slideshow, 2016 season, and then we're going to say down here, end slideshow. Okay, and so now let's copy that. There's my 2015 season, and so now what's going to happen is I'm going to put my Cincopa code into the space between these comments. And let's do this as a matter of fact. Oops, let's go back up here. And just to make this perfectly clear, I'm going to add something that, unlike a comment, will be seen. So that's where the slideshow is going to go. I'm going to replace that. Okay? And so now I'm placing it inside of here as well. Now let's go ahead and click on our source code. And so now I can visualize that. This is the last season, this is the season before that, and here's the season before that. And let's just hope that everything in here still works, but it should, because we've not really touched it. So the next thing we're going to do is let's just save this. Let's take a deep breath and hope it worked. So I'm going to click Update. See how it says down there it's waiting, and so it looks like it's processing, but you'll also notice that it does not gray out. And also, watch what happens when I try and close it. It didn't get the word from the server that, hey, these changes have been saved, and so it's thinking that you haven't saved the changes, okay? That's why I don't, and this has to do with a JavaScript error, because I know that the changes are being saved. Let's prove that right now. So I click OK. And now notice that this isn't changed because I unchecked, I'm going to do this again. So if I notice I unchecked this that says update while I type because I didn't want that to be causing a conflict. But let's refresh or reload the page, and just for grins, hide our edit links. And it's starting to look like what I want it to look like. And so this is all good. So we've got the changes to the database. We've had to deal with some problems and issues with the CK editor as well as the whole CMSB system, and we've had to work around that. We've learned a little bit about HTML. Now let's go ahead and get the content from Cincopa. And so I got go back to galleries. And this is my 2016-2017 season. Let's work on the lowest one first. And so I'm going to embed here. And I'm going to copy that code. And I'm going to go back here. Now, let's just do this very carefully and very calmly. And so we're going to edit that section. And remember, that's source code, so that you can't just paste it in here, which is where it's going to go. We're going to have to go into the source code of the editor as well, because they have to meet up. Now notice what CMS Bridge did. It totally changed my content, but this is where my comments have saved my behind, because I can at least see that. And I know that this is the beginning of the slideshow, this is the end of the slideshow, and so I'm going to very craftily take that, add some white space. Oops, I made a mistake. Or did I specify the end? I didn't. Oh, that's strange. How many times do I have this? Be patient as I check something out. I've got a little concern here. Okay, I see two times. So it doesn't matter as far as white space, but we're going to add some white space so that we can see what's going on here. Again, these changes can be difficult to make, so if you actually get it to work, pat yourself on the back, have a beer, do something to celebrate, because you've done some good work in a probably very tough environment. So white space just makes my day a lot easier. And we can also make this bigger. So now I have the spots that I need here and here. And so we're going to go back to Cincopa and copy again. There. And remember, this is the older season, so we're going to take this guy here and we're going to Control V. And it looks pretty crazy, but it put it, as I scroll to the left, it put it where it needs to go. Now that's step one. Oh, I forgot to do this. So you notice that the page is going crazy. I'm going to update, or not update while I type. So now the page is calmed down. So we're going to move CMS Bridge. We are going to go back to Cincopa. And we're going to go to our most recent season. Click Embed. I'm going to copy. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to begin the slideshow. And it puts it way over here. You notice that the scroll bar is off here. Now, just to underscore the point that I made earlier, let's go ahead and click through here. You notice that I don't see anything. But if I go back and look at source again, if I'm expecting this to be what it was before, I have a rude awakening coming in. And really, I should have placed those, should have placed the scripts inside of the HTML comments instead of replacing them. I'm going to pass on that and just be happy that it actually looks like it's working, because I think it is. And it looks obviously much neater than the previous one. And I think that we can update this. So let's go ahead and update. And it looks like I've passed something to the server, but again, the button itself is not grayed out. And when I close it, it still doesn't think that I've actually made a change or saved my changes. And so it's telling me you're going to lose your changes. Well, no, I think it went to the database. So we're going to click OK. And remember, we were not updating the page live, so therefore this is what I would expect to see. I'm now going to hit F5, and to make it look good, I'm going to hide my edit links, and there we go. 2016 to 2017. There's the previous year, and there's the year before that. So the last thing that needs to be done is, again, HTML, and just a quick lesson to learn here. I'm going to position this so that I can just type what I had. I can see it on my other monitor, so. And I think the introduction that I put is actually pretty good. So you can read it as I type it. Okay, so that's it. And one of the things that I want to do is make a few comments here. First of all, on the actual page, on the actual site, you will notice that we have sign up now is capitalized, and so I want that to be the same in my content, so it distinguishes it as a link. I could probably make it all caps, but I'll skip that. If you look in the lower left-hand corner, it says /sign -up -now. So that's what the actual link should be. So just for fun, let's go to source code, and I'm going to add my hyperlink manually. So it's href equals /sign -up -now, close, and close, and then I'm going to do a /a, and that should get it. And so undo or get out of my source mode, and I'm going to click update. This actually, because there's no JavaScript to mess up the process of submitting, it actually still goes to the database, but it also shows that it's been done, updated, and if I click on close, it doesn't give me any complaints. And so there you go. Now the last thing that I should do is make sure that I didn't type this in wrong, because that would be really a one step forward, two steps back. So let's make sure that doesn't happen. So I look visually, lower left, sign -up -now, and I'm going to hold down my control key and click that link, and sure enough it takes me to, and remember this is the local server, so I don't need to worry about this guy here, but this takes me to the correct page. So that was successful. So there you go. I have everything in place. Now let's just, here's a stupid question. There are no stupid questions. That's debatable. There may be some stupid, I think that there are stupid questions, but I don't think this is a stupid question to say, does the slide work? So let's click on this. I'm using my left arrow and right arrow, and yeah, these guys seem pretty happy. And the ducks do not seem happy, but these guys definitely seem happy. So it appears that we are going in order. We're going to the bottom, so that's good. Let's take a look at this. Those girls are definitely happy. And yeah, that tailgate picture is the last one. So we're good. Now what about the previous ones? We're talking about the subject of QA. Looks like those are all good too. So we have a winner, and this is ready to be updated into production. So actually it's ready to be updated on the remote server, on testing, and then to production. But that just looks a whole lot nicer, and you can see that's what the end goal was, and we should be good. So there you go. I hope you've learned a lot about HTML and using the editor, and just being systematic and meticulous about your approach makes all the difference. And sometimes things don't work, so always make a backup and be prepared to try little steps at a time. And when you're done, congratulate yourself, pat yourself on the back, and be sure to celebrate.